Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. And today we have a new style of video, something that I haven't done before, so it might go a little rough here. But I wanted to start reacting to different people's mock drafts because one of my favorite things about mock draft season is seeing so many people different perspectives, right? Because some people are going to have a player that I have pretty high go very low in the draft, or some people are going to have a player that I'm pretty low on go very high in the draft. So there's so many different perspectives out there, so many different opinions, and sometimes while you're watching through these, you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I might make that move in my next mock. So I think it's a fun way to just kind of get deeper into draft content for you guys, not only produce mock drafts, but some other stuff as well. So to start, we're going to start with this guy named Bengal. I think he has over 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's one of my favorite YouTubers, definitely one of, I think, personally, I think he's the best Madden YouTuber out there. Does like rebuilds and some franchise stuff as well. So as well as the draft, he does a lot of draft content, makes some mock drafts, does his big boards, and he's even started a new thing where he's reviewing certain prospects and touching on why they're going to be good or bad in the NFL. So definitely check his stuff out. But I think I respect his opinion. I haven't always agreed with his drafts, but for the most part, I think that he definitely knows what he's talking about. So it's going to be fun to see who he mocks where, and this is a blind reaction. I haven't watched this one yet, so we'll see who he takes at number one, and I doubt it's anyone other than Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to kind of talk over him. I don't think we really need to hear him talk all that much, but just more or less see the pick. I'll turn it up and see who takes at one. Yeah, so it's Trevor Lawrence. That makes the most sense. I'm going to kind of skip through the video here to his number 2 overall pick. Again, I don't really know how to do this. This is my first time reacting. So I think this is the best way to do it. I'll just kind of sim through what he's saying and react to the pick. And if it's a surprising pick, we can listen to his reasoning on it. But in my most recent mock, I also had Zach Wilson at number 2. Makes sense. Jets are probably going to move on from Sam Darnold. There's Deshaun Watson trade rumors. We'll see how that plays out. But for the most part, I think that it really feels like the Jets are moving on, and if they don't, they'll go Penei Sewell. But for right now, I think Zach Wilson in most of the draft community's eyes is far better than Justin Fields and will be the number 2 quarterback taken off the board. I don't know if he has. If he's doing trades, I don't believe he is, but if he does, then we can dive into that a little. But I think Zach Wilson at 2 makes a lot of sense, and I really agree with that as well. So first 2, right off the bat, I'm in on. So we'll see who he takes at 3 for the Dolphins, and he actually is going to make a trade here. So we'll see what trade he comes up with here. So he's having them trade. He's having the Panthers trade up with the Dolphins here. This is something that I've considered doing. I usually do the Lions, but after that Goff trade, I don't think that's going to be happening. So he has the Panthers moving up. I think he said they're going to. Obviously, the Dolphins are going to get number 8, a first round next year, and they're also swapping 4th round. So So the Panthers accepted that offer. We'll see who he has the Panthers taking. I'm guessing a quarterback because I'd be surprised if they moved up for anything else. And he mocks Justin Fields there. So I agree with that. So far, I think it's a very realistic move to have a team move up, especially with the first 2 picks being quarterback. Then teams are definitely going to want to jump on and try to get their quarterback, as quarterbacks the most wanted position in the NFL and the most important position in the NFL. So it's a realistic trade. I agree with it so far. I like the first 3 picks, 3 quarterbacks going in a row, and you can see in his title he has 4 straight quarterbacks. So I think this is all very realistic. Because, again, quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. So even though Justin Fields and I'm guessing Trey Lance is going to be the next one off the board, might not be, the top of the draft board, they are in terms of positional value. So I do agree with the fact that it's very realistic that 4 quarterbacks could go off the board. I'm guessing it's going to be Trey Lance. We'll see who he takes at 4. And it is Trey Lance. Let's listen into his reasoning a bit on that.
So a lot of teams might be looking to take these top 4 quarterbacks. I know 4 quarterbacks inside the top 4 seems.
Yeah, so he's going to go into kind of what I just said, probably that 4 quarterbacks seems a little off, but again, for positional value, it makes the most sense. to pick a quarterback because, again, it's the most important position. I personally, with the top 3 quarterbacks going off the board, wouldn't have had Trey Lance there. I'd mock Penei Sewell to the Falcons. I think that's really realistic, especially with their new GM coming over from the Saints, a team that picked 5 offensive linemen in the last 6 drafts, so in the first round, that is. So I think that it's very realistic if the first 3 quarterbacks are off the board, the Falcons go in a different direction. But again, positional value you have to look at. So the Falcons picking Trey Lance isn't all that crazy to me. So we'll see who he has at 5. I'm guessing it's Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, and we'll see who he takes at 5, and it is Penei Sewell. Again, makes sense. I've said this in all my mock drafts. The fact that you almost lost your franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow last year as the Bengals is, horrific. It's one of the worst things a franchise has ever done, not investing in offensive line to protect him, and now they have to do it. It's a necessity this year. They need to be able to protect Joe Burrow, so getting Penei Sewell at 5, I completely agree with. So I think he's I agree with him on 4 or 5 picks so far. Again, I think it's a bit of a reach on Trey Lance, but it all goes back to that positional value. We'll see who he picks at 6 here, and he goes Jamar Chase. And again, I mocked that in my most recent. I personally have Devontae Smith going above Jamar Chase only if it's to the Dolphins. Other than that, I have Jamar Chase as my number 1. So you can see the Dolphins traded back. Jamar Chase is available for the Eagles, so I agree with that 100%. You got to get a receiver if you're the Eagles. It's one of their main positional needs. You can look on the defensive side of the ball, but with Jamar Chase, such a physical, dominant receiver, being there at 6, again, it makes a lot of sense to me for them to go Jamar Chase. So we'll see who he has. The Lions picking at 7. It's going to be interesting. Quarterback, I think, no longer is a need because of that Jared Goff trade. This came out before that, but with the top 4 quarterbacks going, before the Lions, I doubt he has quarterback going anyway. So I'm sure it'll be corner or wide receiver, and it is wide receiver. So Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama, beast. So he has 4 quarterbacks going in a row now, 2 wide receivers going in a row. Wouldn't be surprised if he mocks Jalen Waddle. So you have 3 wide receivers going in a row here to the Dolphins, and he does. So Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, all off the board by pick number 8. That's another realistic thing, and it all depends on where these teams pick. I think we could realistically see a trade inside the top, or from 5 to 10, depending on if a team wants to trade up for a wide receiver. We could also see a Mac Jones trade at this point if all the 4 quarterbacks are off the board, because of the fact that, again, quarterback is the most important position, and it's the most sought-after position. So if, a team like the football team, the Bears, the Colts, the 49ers wanted to trade up for Mac Jones, that's certainly a possibility. But so far, I think this is a pretty solid mock draft. Eagles, Dolphins, and Lions all going wide receiver makes sense as long as those top 4 quarterbacks are off the board. So we'll see who has my Denver Broncos, my favorite team, picking here at 9. And they go Caleb Farley. So I personally have Patrick Surtain higher than Caleb Farley. I want my Broncos to get Patrick Surtain, but Caleb Farley's a beast, and you can make an argument that he's better than Surtain. Again, I say Surtain's better just because of the fact that we've seen another year of tape from him, and he produced very, very well this year, just as well as he's done in the past seasons, whereas Caleb Farley opted out. We haven't seen as much from him. But right now, again, Surtain's my number 1, but Caleb Farley makes a great case to be a number 1 corner, and teams could have it either way. So again, not going to disagree with that. I agree with that pick so far. This has been a really solid mock draft for Bengal. At 10, he has Rashawn Slater. If Surtain's available, I think the Cowboys have to go Surtain, and I've seen tackle mocked a lot here. And to me, obviously their tackles are getting on the older side. They're going to need to start bringing in some younger talent on that offensive line, and Rashawn Slater has been someone that, reports have come out that people have him higher than Penei Sewell, so it's definitely a great value pick. But again, I think, for positional need, and even best player available besides Kyle Pitts and maybe Micah Parsons, I think that Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys would make more sense there. But again, I don't disagree with it. It makes sense. Cowboys need to get younger on the offensive line. At 11, it's going to be interesting to see what he does here. I think he might go Kyle Pitts. He is a Giants fan, I know that. And I know he hates Evan Ingram, so I wouldn't be shocked, and he has his mouse over Pitts right now. I think Surtain would also be a good pickup for the Giants. They can make a lockdown secondary with Surtain and Bradbury. And then the other interesting thing to see if he does is if he goes Parson or Pay, because the Giants need basically every position on defense. But I think... and he does go Micah Parsons. So Parsons at 11, there's been some character issues with him. A report came out that 15-plus plus teams are thinking about passing up on Micah Parsons because of his character. We'll see what actually happens. But I don't disagree with that at all. He is a Giants fan. He knows what he's talking about when he's talking about Giants needs. And Micah Parsons, I personally think, is the best defensive player in the class. So terrific talent there for the Giants, and kind of a steal at 11 as long as that character doesn't hold him back too much. At 12, this is another interesting spot. But with Surtain being here, I doubt he goes any other direction than Patrick Surtain. I'll be shocked. And he does go Surtain. So that makes sense. Patrick Surtain to the 49ers, that would be a steal for that's probably their dream scenario, other than getting maybe a Zach Wilson or Trey Lance at 12. So I think that's a great pickup for the Niners with how the board has fallen so far. At 13, I'm sure this is going to be a Darisaw spot, maybe Kwity Paye. We'll see who he mocks. And with Hunter Henry being a franchise tagged, we could see maybe them going Kyle Pitts. And he goes Christian Darisaw, so offensive tackle spot makes sense. Christian Darisaw is a great player, and it's the same thing with Joe Burrow in the Bengals. You got to protect your rookie quarterback, your young franchise quarterback. Obviously, no longer a rookie in Justin Herbert, but getting some protection for him makes sense. So I really like this mock from Bengals so far. I think he's done a really good job, and we'll see how he finishes it off here as we get closer to the back end of the draft. Vikings is an interesting spot. They could go Kyle Pitts as well. I'm a huge fan of Irv Smith. I think that they kind of need to let him start to work more, and you've seen that. I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns this year in the red zone. I think they got to continue to let him work. So I don't think you have to go Pitts. Paye is an interesting option to get a guy alongside Danielle Hunter on the defensive line. You could also go interior offensive line. I think Elijah Vera Tucker is a great pick here for the Vikings if he wants to go in that direction. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does. So let's see what he does with the Vikings here. And he goes Davion Nixon. Wow. So that's a little bit of a reach for me. I don't have Davion Nixon that high. You could argue he's the best interior defensive lineman in this class. After his playoff performance, though, I think Christian Barmore takes that. But it's interesting. I like the boldness of the pick, but I don't agree with it. I think that's a huge reach for the Vikings. They could really need help on anywhere of the offensive line, so that's why I kind of like the Elijah Vera Tucker pick, because he has that offensive line versatility where he can play tackle and he can play guard, and he can really start wherever the Vikings need him next year. But Davion Nixon, that's an interesting one. I'd be very surprised to see him go that early in the draft. We'll see what he does at 15. I'd be shocked if it's not Kyle Pitts. And it is Kyle Pitts. So that's another one that makes sense. That's been mocked by everyone and their mom. Kyle Pitts is a beast tight end, and the Patriots just need a playmaker on offense, and I'm sure that's what he's talking about. How he is a mismatch, and he's lined up on the outside a lot for Florida, and he's beaten one-on-one coverage, man coverage versus cornerbacks. So imagine what he's going to do to linebackers and safeties in the NFL. I think Kyle Pitts is an overall beast and a really, really fun mismatch for the Patriots to get. So I like this mock. I think he's basically hit on all the picks except for Trey Lance at 4. I thought was a reach, and Davion Nixon here at 14 I think is a very big reach. But other than that, I like what he's doing. And obviously every mock's going to be different, but I really like the flow of this, and I could definitely see all this happening as he goes J.C. Horn at 16. I think that's a bit of a reach, but Cardinals' probably biggest need is cornerback. I've been mocking edge there a lot because they do need an edge piece, and at 16, as you can see, all the edge rushers are available, so it makes sense for them to get the best one, whether that, you can view that as Joseph Osai, Kwity Paye, Azeez Ojulari, Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips, whoever you view as the best edge. You could go at 16, but again, biggest need for the Cardinals is corner. I think it's a bit of a reach on J.C. Horn, and he's going to be pretty scheme dependent or his success is going to depend on the scheme that he ends up in. I don't really like the Cardinals scheme for him, but we'll see how it plays out, and I don't mind the pick at all because, again, that's the biggest need for the Cardinals. So at 17, Raiders have all the edge rushers available. I'd be shocked if he doesn't mock edge here with, some of the top edge players being available, and he does go edge. He has Gregory Rousseau, so I think the opt-out and the lack of the combine is actually going to hurt Rousseau's stock. I don't think he'll be the first edge off the board. I think Kwity Paye would definitely be a better landing, or would be more realistic for the Raiders. And now, I'm not a huge fan of Kwity Paye. I say he's like Jadeveon Clowney, really can't rush the passer, but he's a great run stopper. And sure, he gets pressures, but he doesn't really get sacks, and I know people can argue that pressures are more important, or just as important as sacks, but, I think that the general community in the draft and the people that are smarter than me and probably smarter than Bengal, no offense, Bengal, like guys like Mel Kiper, guys like Daniel Jeremiah, guys like Matt Miller, guys that actually have inside sources, are all saying that Pay is most people's edge one. So I think it's more likely than not that we see Pay go. But again, edge is basically preference, and I don't blame Bengal for putting his own spin on it. And Gregory Rousseau, I think John Gruden could have a lot of fun with that player, so I don't mind the pick. But again, I would have mocked maybe another edge there at 17. We'll see what he does at 18. This is probably a linebacker spot. I'd be willing to guess Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, unless he gets bold and does running back. So we'll see what he does at 18. And he does do running back. Travis Etienne. Personally, I have Najee Harris higher than Etienne, and you can flip a coin. I think that a lot of people could put Travis Etienne, but I think that Najee Harris being such a good running back that also can receive and block, I think that that's the full package, right? Because Najee Harris, people think that he's baby Derrick Henry 2.0, just is going to run you over, but he does so much more than that. He's a threat in the receiving game. He doesn't get enough credit for it, and can really make plays after the catch. So that's something that excites me about Najee Harris so much, and I really do believe he'll be the first running back taken. But Etienne at 18 is interesting. Getting a running back that high in the draft for the Dolphins. And he's certainly a playmaker, but someone that you could probably get at 34 or 35, wherever they pick next, I think is probably a little more realistic. But we'll see. I think that Etienne definitely is, a possibility here at 18. But with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah being available, I don't see how the Dolphins pass it up. So that's another one that I'm a bit iffy on. And we'll see who has the football team taken. Maybe a little Mac Jones action or a tackle. We'll see. And he does do Mac Jones. So that's another realistic possibility. I think we could really see Mac Jones go inside the top 10, especially after the Senior Bowl he's had. I think the Carolina Panthers are a very realistic spot for Mac Jones due to the fact that he was with Matt Rule all week at the Senior Bowl. And I know I talked about that with a few people in my comments, but I think Mac Jones certainly could be a top 10 caliber player and, again, put on an absolute show at the Senior Bowl. And obviously this is pre-Senior Bowl mock draft for Bengals, so I'm sure you might have him a little higher now, but I think that it's a good pickup for the football team to get him at 19. At 20, this is probably going to be a tackle spot, maybe a wide receiver. We'll see what he does, but and he does go wide receiver. Rashad Bateman, I think tackle is a little more important. The Bears' offensive line was basically the worst in the NFL last year. It was abysmal. So I see them going tackle if, most of the top-tier wide receivers, and by that I mean the big three, are off the board here at 20. Rashad Bateman is someone that, kind of concerns me. I call him baby Michael Thomas because he runs slants, and that's basically it. But he has a good catch radius. He doesn't need the most accurate quarterback to be successful, and I think that's why a team like the Bears or maybe the Ravens will take him when they don't have the most accurate quarterback. So Rashad Bateman's range is probably 20 to 35, I would say. So it's a good pickup from the Bears, and I don't hate the pick at all. At 21, this is another offensive tackle spot for me. If Mac Jones is off the board and with Costanzo retiring, I see them going tackle, and he does pick. He picks Samuel Cosme. So another solid pick from him, another one that I agree with. So, again, this is a mock draft that I really like. There's a few picks in there that raise some question marks, mainly that Davion Nixon pick. But other than that, I think that this is something that I certainly see happening. And obviously no one's going to be 100% right as he goes Joseph Ossai at 22 to the Titans. I've mocked that in a few drafts as well. I think they need a pocket pusher, someone that can just get pressure on the quarterback. And if they get another edge rusher, whether it's a guy like Rousseau who can play inside and outside, or a guy like Azeez Ojulari who's just kind of an outside rusher, and same with Joseph Ossai, I think that's going to make that defensive line lethal because you already have Harold Landry, you already have Jeffrey Simmons, and if you can add another key piece to that, like they tried to do with Jadeveon Clowney, then you can make your defense really, really good. So I like to pick up a lot here from the Titans at 22. And again, like I was saying, this is just a mock draft that I really agree with so far. So we'll see who he picks at 23. This could be a wide receiver spot, a cornerback spot, perhaps even edge with Azeez Ojulari, Kwity Paye, and Jalen Phillips all being available. So that's the other thing. I think Kwity Paye, again, I don't like Kwity Paye, but it feels like, and mock drafts aren't what I would do is how I view them, right? I think it's what the GMs are going to do. So with Kwity Paye being, kind of widely regarded as the edge number one, I would see him going at 22 and even at 17 before these other guys. But again, putting your own spin on a mock draft doesn't hurt. No one's ever going to be right on a mock draft, or 100% right. So, and it's still very early. So we could see a lot of changes before draft time. But as of right now, I would just have Paye at number 1. But I could certainly see the Jets going edge here with pay available. But instead he goes Eric Stokes, and I don't hate that pick. I think Aaron Robinson is going to start to get a lot of rise. He had a great Senior Bowl week. Again, this is pre-Senior Bowl for him. Or for Bengal making this mock draft. So I think that he might actually be the corner 4 off the board after J.C. Horn, but it's going to be interesting. Eric Stokes to the Jets, I could definitely see. Solid scheme really makes it easy for cornerbacks. You don't really have to be all that good. You just have to know your role on the defense and be in position, and you can play good football. And we see that with a lot of the 49ers cornerbacks over the past few years, kind of developing into solid players in that scheme. So I think Eric Stokes could definitely grow into a good corner with Robert Saleh in New York. We'll see who he gets at 24. This could be another running back spot, but he goes Jalen Mayfield. I would have personally gone Alex Leatherwood. Again, right now, tackle, especially on the back end of this class, is complete preference, and no one really knows the order that it's going to fall in. Personally, like I said, Leatherwood, and like I've said in mock drafts, Leatherwood just has such a high floor to me because he's had 4 years of starting experience and has played really good football at Alabama. So I have Leatherwood kind of after Cosme or even before Cosme, but right now it's all preference, and the Steelers certainly need a tackle with Andre Villanueva on his way out. Andrew Villanueva? I'm blanking on his name, but one of their tackles is leaving, and he goes, sorry, kind of skipped ahead here, but Jacksonville Jaguars, he has going Liam Eichenberg. That's another tackle spot. Gives you the again, I would have mocked Leatherwood there, but it gives you the flexibility to move Cam Robinson to the inside or just not re-sign Cam Robinson, but they have the money to do so why not? You could even move Jawan Taylor to the inside too. So I like that pick from Bengal, going tackle to the Jags, not the player, but I like the position. And then at 26, this is just an absolute steal and something that I'm sure the Browns fans will love, getting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think he's a top 20 talent, and I think he's going to go in that range. So he's kind of fallen here for Bengal, so it makes perfect sense for the Browns to get him here at 26, and we'll see who the Ravens get at 27. He goes Kwity Paye now. So Ravens definitely need an edge. Matthew Judon probably won't return. And getting Kwity Paye at 27, I think, as like I said, a lot of people view him as one of the best edges in this class or the best edge. So he's got to be, somewhat good, right? So I think that's a good pickup for the Ravens at 27. And it makes sense. It's a positional need, and he's filling a fit there at 27. So at 28, we're going to see what he does for the New Orleans Saints. This could be a quarterback spot. I don't think Kyle Trask is going to go in the first round. I certainly hope he doesn't. He definitely doesn't deserve to do so. I think linebacker is realistic with a guy like Nick Bolton or Zaven Collins being on the board, and we'll see what he does. And he goes Zaven Collins. Zaven Collins is an interesting player. Matt Miller actually has him as an edge. A lot of people have him as an interior linebacker. He can play both ways. He's versatile, and I think that excites a lot of players or a lot of teams. The only thing I don't like about this pick is he's basically Zach Bond 2.0, who they drafted last year. So maybe they want to go a more of, just a standard linebacker and get a Nick Bolton here at 27. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Zaven Collins is certainly a solid pickup for the Saints. At 29, Packers definitely, I would say, go wide receiver. We'll see what he has them doing. Kadarius Toney is still on the board. He's looking at cornerback right now, and I'll see what he does at 29. He goes Greg Newsome. So I think that's a reach for Greg Newsome. I think with Kadarius Toney being on the board, Rondale Moore being on the board, you got to go wide receiver if you're the Packers. I understand that Kevin King had a horrible game, and corner is certainly a need, but also with a good offense like you had last year, and if Aaron Rodgers returns, and obviously Devontae Adams will be back, wide receiver is definitely going to be, could be a very fun need for the Packers, because if you get another good wide receiver, someone that can catch the ball consistently, which is kind of the Packers' main downfall right now, I think that certainly helps out Aaron Rodgers and certainly helps out Devontae Adams, because if you're doubling Devontae, that means all your other receivers are in one-on-ones, and a guy like Rondale Moore, a guy like Kadarius Toney, or even Elijah Moore can win in those one-on-ones. So I certainly would have the Packers going wide receiver. I think it's a very big reach on Greg Newsome. I think Aaron Robinson has made a name for himself as a physical corner, probably the most physical in the draft, and could certainly go here at 29, but we'll see how it all plays out. I think Greg Newsome is a reach there for the Packers. At 30, we'll see what he does with the Buffalo Bills. Linebacker, I think Nick Bolton could go here. I think a lot of Bills fans want cornerbacks, but most of the top-tier cornerbacks are off the board here. He does go Nick Bolton. I like the pick. Nick Bolton is kind of a thumper. It reminds me a lot of Kenneth Murray from last year. That's a pro comparison that I've said a few times. So I think we could certainly see Nick Bolton go into Kenneth Murray range, which was probably like 20 to 35 last year. So Nick Bolton to the Bills, I don't mind that pick at all. Here I think is a Christian Barmore spot, but he goes Kadarius Toney. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bucs do with their wide receivers this year. I think they're certainly going to have to let either Antonio Brown or Chris Godwin go. And yeah, that does leave a window for them to pick up another wide receiver. However, it's a deep wide receiver class. Maybe it's not your biggest need, so I think interior defensive line is probably the better pick here for the Bucs. But regardless, it's not a bad pick, and Kadarius Toney's a super fun player and someone that could definitely help out Tom Brady in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he also kind of reminds me of Scotty Miller, so I don't even know if it's worth the pick there at 31. And then to finish it off at 32, we'll see who he picks to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll let it play out because it's going to finish the draft. So he goes Elijah Vera Tucker. So that's a great value pick. I've had Tucker as high as 14, so a very solid pickup, and we can just kind of let him scroll through the draft. I'm sure he's going to do that.
And the Chiefs need that amazing injury stop play at left guard.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a solid mock draft. I like the draft a lot. Again, Bengal's one of my favorite YouTubers and someone that I definitely respect his draft opinions. There's a few reaches in there. Again, Trey Lance is someone that I don't see going as high as 4, but positional value I think kind of backs up that pick for Bengal. Davion Nixon is someone that I don't see going at 14, certainly. And then again, the falling of Kwity Paye I don't think is all that realistic. Again, I'm not a fan of Kwity Paye, but this isn't what I would do. This is what I think the GMs are going to do, as well as the fact that there was some questionable picks, and the Jets reaching on Eric Stokes. I think the Jags reached on Liam Eichenberg, but I agree with both those positional needs. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything. These are just my opinions. Let me know if you guys like this style of video. I just wanted to try it out. We can do a Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. We could do a Mel Kiper mock draft. Matt Miller's coming out, I think, on February 11th if you guys want me to react to that. So let me know if you guys like this style of video. Again, don't forget to subscribe. We're going to do a 32 GM mock draft for subscribers. We're going to randomly pick 32 subscribers to be GM. So let me know if you guys want to do that down in the comments. Let me know the team you would want to control for the mock draft, and it only qualifies as long as you're subscribed. But anyway, guys, take it easy. Peace.